Hey guys, I hope you're well. This is me, Nat Rich, live on the Talkwoods. And today is Saturday, the 9th of January already. I can't believe that this is like the first week of this year's gone. It's crazy. And we are here tonight talking about what we can do now we're in lockdown, what we can do to improve our lives and make sure that we are making the most out of this beautifully blissful time. Maybe not be blissful for all, but we're going to talk about what can be done. And tonight I have been joined by a very old, I'm going to say a very old friend of mine, an old friend of mine, not a very old friend. You're only a few years older than me. But Pete Gooding, and I've worked with Pete before. We've had a business in the past. We've partied in the past, and we've met about 13 years ago. Is that right?
Let me think. 16.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my God, that makes me feel so old. Okay, well, that's kind of revealed my age, but fuck it. Oh, by the way, we're just a proclaimer. Sorry, there may be swearing on tonight's show. I do apologize if you don't like swearing. Please don't show me to your kids, but it might come out. We're being real. So yes, Pete is Pete. Actually, do you want to tell us what you're doing now? What you're, because your job's kind of transitioned. What is it you're up to now?
I was a DJ for 20 years, a record producer, radio presenter. Not a music journalist. That's a bit extravagant. I used to write reviews. I can't even spell very well, so call myself a journalist would be a exaggeration. And then for the last 10 years, I've been managing artists in music, and I have an education business with Point Blank, an artist development program, and yeah, that's it.
Love it. And and we've lived in Ibiza, we've lived in London, so we've been all over the place. But now you are living in Devon with your family.
In Devon. Oh, and I'm musical director at Hostel Torre in Ibiza.
Oh yes, yeah. And you were resident at Mambo for years, weren't you, in Ibiza as well? So
23,
people might know you from their drunken days. And then we've got Yasmin. Yasmin, you have to remind me how many years ago it was when we met, because you were really young when we met. You were like, how old were you?
11 years this year, which seems so crazy.
Yeah.
Bonkers. Where did all the time go, basically?
Yeah, that feels weird. I'm feeling really old now from you two. So me and Yasmin met because I came downstairs in my house for breakfast, and Yasmin was on my sofa. She was the friend of one of my other housemates, and we ended up chatting pretty much the whole day. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
yeah, that was it.
Like, I'm not going to go to work. I'll just stay here and chat to you.
Yeah, that was where. And then I persuaded you to go to Ibiza, and yeah,
10 days later, I was on a flight. My mum's absolute dismay and horror, but there we go.
Never look back. And and Yasmin, just tell us a bit about what you've been up to kind of in your life. You've done some stuff like journalism stuff. You've done like a show. You've had your own podcast. Just skim over it and let everyone know what you do.
All right. I've worked in the music industry doing marketing. I've done event production. I also, like Pete, have written reviews for magazines, online magazines, and just general like dance music stuff. I've hosted radio. I have my own podcast. A bit of a jack of all trades, really. Just if I like the sound of it, I'll do it. And now I'm looking at going into therapeutic practices.
Indeed, which we'll be discussing on another show as well. Definitely. And then we've got Harriet. So Harriet's the latest addition to my life. I met Harriet through one of the WhatsApp groups that we're on, and Harriet's got an amazing platform called Secret Sessions. We're a bit in and out with the video, but I know that you're still there. So do you want to explain a little bit more, Harriet, about what you do? Hopefully. Is the signal there? No. I don't think she does. She's either very quiet and shy about what she does, or the signal's gone. But I'll wait for her to come back in and see if it works. But for now, there we go. So today's show is pretty much about what people can do in the lockdown, because it is a difficult time, and we are all looking at our lives thinking, what's going on? How can we do this? What needs to change? And it's something quite important that we do need to realize that this time is quite significant. And if we make use of this time, Then there we go. Harriet's back up. Hello.
I am here. I'm working on my image. I've got my voice for now.
Don't worry, we'll just have your voice. Don't worry about the video. We'll have your voice. I'm saying if you can introduce yourself and tell everyone what you've been up to, because it's really good about secret sessions and what you've been up to in the past.
Yeah, so I am Harriet, and I run a music platform called Secret Sessions, a live event that has obviously been not in operation since last February. But in the meantime, I've set up a platform called Girls to the Front that helps female and gender minority talent be successful in the UK music industry.
Amazing. And how many people have you got? You've been having your regular Zooms, haven't you, over lockdown? And you've been getting a kind of average of about 15, 20 girls every week?
We're up to about 40 now.
Wow.
We did a goal setting workshop last week, and there was about 40 of them there. So there's definitely still a big appetite for this support.
Yeah, indeed. So it is a bit of a strange one, obviously, in the music industry. Predominantly, this show is actually going to go out to everyone over at Waterbear in Brighton. We're going to be sharing this, and also with Point Blank Music College, sharing it out for those musicians that are kind of in a lull right now because the industry is on its butt. And what we're thinking about is, what more you can do and how you can reconnect with yourself. But Pete, I'll chuck my kind of first question over to you, because obviously you've still got artists that you manage at the moment, and you have all your, your links and everything in the music industry. What's the vibe, especially from the dance music industry, the kind of angle that you're in? What's the vibe at the moment where the industry is at and what people are doing? Are they kind of hunkering down? What's the general vibe on it?
I think when it started I was managing somebody that was also had a booking agency that was based in China. So I sort of saw it a little bit before it was in the news, just because of him, because it was kind of a month earlier there. So I kind of felt in February it was going to happen. And I think nobody knew it. No one expected it to last a long time. We thought we'd be locked down for a month or even 3. And I think on that basis, it didn't seem like you would need to adapt. You could just kind of wait a little bit, right? And then I think as time progressed, it became clear that it sort of wiped out the whole year, maybe 90% of it. And then I think a lot of people have this expectation it's 2020. When you're like 7 and when you have your 8th birthday, you think you're going to feel different because you're 8. It's like everyone, I think, thinks, oh, it's the 1st of January. Well, a week ago, 2021 is going to be different. It's the same. I mean, nothing's changed. It's not. I don't think it's going to be that much. I think it'll be better, but I don't think it'll be dramatically better for the performance side. But who knows? It may be, But my expectation is maybe it'll be 30-40% of a normal year at best, I think. So I think once it sort of time elapsed and it became clear, people started to do streams, and everybody was frantically doing streams, and that seemed great in the beginning. And then I think a lot of people realized it was quite boring. And then people started to adapt, and the technology was improving, and you could suddenly play back to back. And then suddenly it's almost like CGI now, and some people have adapted and done amazing things. So I think some people have sat it out thinking, I can wait this one out. People who aren't so comfortable being in front of a camera. But I think it's just a new part of life now, and I think it may go on for quite a while, really. So I think if you're not in it, you're kind of your profile could kind of really dramatically drop, and people could even break through this period who are innovative. So yeah, I think people are definitely, they know now they have to adapt. If you're essentially earning your money solely from being a DJ, as I did for 20 years, I tried to think earlier before coming on this call, what would I do if I was a DJ now? I don't know, actually. I mean, I definitely would have no income, and I would have inevitably had to have done something else by now, for sure. I've got friends who are established DJs who are doing other stuff. They're training in not training but they're learning new skills. They've taken it in a very positive way. And I know people who seem to just watch Netflix and drink more, or whatever. There's a whole scope of variation of how different people are taking it. Different people find it more stressful than others. So I think everyone reacts differently.
It seems for me, I get a little bit, I do worry a little bit when I think about a lot of people in the industry, because a lot of them were holding on that it was going to be on the January 2021, it was going to be all different. Music industry, like festivals now have just been announced that they're not going to happen this year. And it's, really, it's quite hard for a lot of people to take, because this is the year that they've got to really now think, right, for a year ahead, at least, I do actually have to do something about this situation. I can't just wing it and ride it out, because it's not going to work.
Absolutely. And I think, and that's not easy, because, there's a lot of people who don't have work. So it just, I think it also depends on your financial position. Most people are, I think people say, between 1 and 3 months from bankruptcy, essentially, without their income. So people have just had to adapt, and some people have obviously furloughed or whatever. It's, again, it depends what part of the music industry you're in, right?
Yeah, indeed. So, Harriet, I know you've just been rebooting. Thank you, doing your technical stuff. So we're just talking about, obviously, a lot of the artists are having to do a realization check kind of now of what's going to go on for the rest of this year, because a lot of them they weren't really buying into there not being an industry again this year. They were kind of holding out and hoping. But you have, as I said before, you've got some fantastic stuff that you're doing every week. I get your emails when they were coming through from lockdown, and there was some really diverse ideas. What do you think the general vibe is at the moment? Because you deal a lot with acoustic artists, don't you, and a few more singers and stuff rather than DJs. But what's the general vibe there?
I think there was an initial kind of complete creative paralysis, and there was a lot of trying to, tell people that it's okay if you're doing nothing, it's okay if you can't get out of bed, like, it's fine. And now I think I'm seeing a bit more of the spark of ambitions coming back again, and I think people are starting to realize kind of what can be done with this time that's available. But I think there's definitely a fine balance between, not feeling guilty if you haven't learned to produce, learned German, and learned to do everything in this space of time. But I'm definitely seeing that people are starting to kind of get the buzz back. And I don't even think it's necessarily because they can see that live music is coming back anytime soon. I think it's because they can see that there's other things they can do to build their career that isn't standing on a stage and playing music. And particularly something that I'm focusing on is getting them to really focus on their online presence, because that's something, particularly with the talent that I work with, is something that always comes second. So trying to kind of push that to the forefront and really trying to build their online fan base to the point that it's as good as their live fan base.
So you've got obviously with the girls group that you're doing, kind of like the kind of gender different perspective. I think there's been so much kind of emotional confrontation last year that a lot of people went through with gender and race and kind of all this kind of stuff. Do you think that there's artists out there that are kind of making an identity more now out of their race and out of their gender? Or do you think that a lot of them are just kind of coming to say, do you know what, it's more about me being unique, what I can do as a musician? Because before lockdown, we saw quite a lot of people that were making it in the news because they were some of the first transitioning artists or some of the first women artists. Do you think now it's kind of everybody's just jumping on board and finding a unique angle? Or do you think it's a little bit more about identity still and kind of creating that online?
I think ultimately for anyone, it's about only being yourself, because, no one else can be you. So, but I think what's definitely important for artists is building a brand around whoever that person is.
Yeah.
And so I think this sort of brand building exercises that need to be done with a lot of these artists are more about working out what part of you is the part of you that makes you you, and what part of you is what's going to connect with your fans, and really bringing them to the forefront. Because a lot of people, their gender will be at the very forefront of who they are, whereas for someone else it might be where they come from, or from someone else it might be some amazing guitar talent they can do. So working out what that kind of USP is, a bit of a dry word, but working out what that is for an artist and really getting them to focus on that instead of this sort of marketing strategy of just sort of throwing anything out there and seeing what sticks.
So I've got I got Yasmin on. I thought it'd be good to have, because Yasmin, you've been a hardcore raver back in the day, and you've loved the dance music scene and a lot of live events, if I remember rightly from what you were saying. And from as a consumer perspective, I thought it'd be really good to kind of get your ideas of seeing how engaged have you been with the music industry since lockdown, and has it been something that you've kind of forgotten about, or have you still maintained the connections? Have you still, you know, is there kind of more of a vibe, or what are you going through at the moment?
I don't know if I'm necessarily that representative of other people, because I came off Instagram in March and decided that I was absolutely done after 10 years of being a social media manager. I was absolutely done with Instagram and social media. So no, I haven't kept up with anything really. I have made more Spotify playlists than I've ever made, and I think my music taste has broadened, and I've been able to discover a lot of music that I wasn't, I didn't have time to listen to, or I didn't have access to, or I wasn't in the right frame of mind for, because of the job that I was doing. So to be honest, no, I've got no idea what's going on, and I didn't even know that festivals are not happening this year until you just said. So yeah, probably maybe not the best.
No, it's good. It's an honest answer though, because I know, you know, you have been in the past, and this is, a lot of people did make those decisions. I mean, I haven't been on socials for 2 years, and it changed my life massively. But what I do use way more than I ever did was Spotify and YouTube for looking at different artists and finding different music, but not on Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter. All of that's gone out of my life. And I think a lot of people are moving away from those because they can be quite toxic platforms for a number of reasons. But I still maintain my interest on YouTube and on Spotify. So my usage of those is definitely skyrocketed. What do you think, Pete, from a your perspective, in terms of what you think in terms of artists putting stuff online on their platforms and stuff? Do you think there's been a change in that? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what was really interesting in the beginning was, you know, I've since I started being a manager, I started managing with unknown artists, so I was sort of building people from scratch. And what was interesting was we still have some development clients, and when I talk about marketing, digital marketing to them, they're often, you know, if they're new, they'll be like, yeah, but I haven't got the gigs, I don't have releases yet, or what, depending on the level they're at. And I was pointing out that, well, you've got as many gigs as the big DJs now, you know, so observe what they're going to do, because you're going to see more creativity than you've ever seen, because people have got to market themselves without the same products. Labels dramatically reduced their releases. They were putting things back. You know, one of my artists, Temba, who you know, we had an album coming out, I recall, in May last year, then we went back to September, then October, now this month, which was a good thing in my opinion. But so people had to adapt, had to get creative, they had to think of new ideas, because they needed to communicate to their audience, but they didn't have the same information, they didn't have the gigs. And of course then, you know, I think when the first people I felt were really leading with the streams were Defected. They created amazing flyers as if it was a real gig, so it kind of added this feeling of reality, like they'd really created something. And then I think people started up in their game. People like Bob Sinclair, who I just think's great, was DJing from his home in like in a leopard print suit, just having fun playing disco, and it was fun to watch. And I think watching a DJ just, you know, look a bit bored playing some records isn't really that stimulating without the environment of a club, the energy of the room. Without that, it can look a bit flat. So I think people have had to adapt, but then that also creates novelty performances, which I kind of cringe at a little bit. But, you know, it's entertainment at the end of the day, and if people enjoy whatever, then that's a great thing. But I think there's been a real uniting of the community. I think that there's been a lot of supportive behavior. People have really reached out to people. So I think in many ways there is naturally always benefits to any drawback, and they've been very visible. So I think it's been very lovely to see people come together as well, which is great.
There's been quite a lot of, especially in the dance music scene, there has been quite a lot of rumors flying around. There's been some deaths. There's been some, you know, people going online and saying that, you know, their truth about how they feel like mental health wise. And I think that that's really humanized the industry in a big way, because there was a big separation between artists and fans before. Even though they were like, oh no, I'm accessible on all these platforms, I'm really in with the artist, they're still very, very particular about what they speak about, and they don't want to be seen in a certain way or associated with anything in a certain way. And it kind of just ripped back the rug. And everyone was like, okay, well, this is what I stand for, this is who I am, this is how I feel, this is what it's about. And that angle really has, I mean, there's still quite a few artists that would never even go there and talk about how they truly feel because they don't want to be seen in a certain way, but the ones that have are the ones that people are remembering and talking about at the moment.
And they resonate with them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that truth. Yeah, it's the truth of it. So obviously, so I'll chuck it back to Yasmin. In terms of obviously not being able to go out and stuff and not being able to interact in the ways that we could before, because I know you, even when you stopped drinking and stuff before, you were still going out and still enjoying yourself, weren't you? Like without the alcohol and stuff. What's it been like for your, like, in mental health terms and kind of socially? Have you maintained a social presence in any, not on social media, but with your friends?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite difficult actually. It's circumstantially, because this is going to sound so dramatic, and I think only people in London will understand this, but before the pandemic, I lived in South London and all my friends were in North London. So I just spent 6 months living in South London. Like no one came south of the river. And I kind of got quite isolated, and then I quit my job, went to Mexico for a month and a half, came back, and quietly moved back to London in the middle of the pandemic. And so it had been like a whole year since I'd really been around my friends. So it's been quite nice. I've had a good opportunity to sort of reestablish connections with people. But I mean, at the beginning, it was really difficult because we didn't know how long this was going to go. And then we kind of had a summer, and, you know, went to a few illegal gatherings, not parties necessarily, not raves, but just, you know, collections of people together. And I went to a socially distanced gig, which was great, but it's such a killjoy, you know, like you're not allowed to stand up, and we had a little secret lock-in, and in the end everyone was just like died on the tables and cut the music off and be like, everyone's got to sit down. And it's you know, I've got into a bit of a groove with it now, and I am seeing people, but quite often I am stood in my bedroom in the dark with a mix on or tunes on, just like dancing and envisioning being on a dance floor somewhere in a total trance, because that's literally the closest I can get.
You're not the only one. I've done that plenty of times in my little studio here, and just got the speakers on and switched everything off. Yeah, I got a diffuser that's got like multicolored lights, and that's literally like my school disco in my bedroom. And I think it's quite hard because I work in festival production as well, so like, you know, as much as I do love going out clubbing, I do have that element of being able to work in that environment, and I really miss that as well. So yes, I think it's been hard for all of us, you know, as much as I might have switched my social media off for my sanity. It's that can be quite isolating in and of itself, because that's how everybody communicates and shares their information with each other. You know, I haven't really necessarily stayed with my finger. My finger was loosely on the pulse of what was happening anyway, so I just took it off, and now I feel like a very uncool, disconnected old lady in lockdown, listening to, like, you know, mixes from 2012, having it in my bedroom. I've become the woman I never thought I'd be, but yeah. So there's a really honest vibe as well. Like, I think when you're saying what you're doing in your bedroom, we must have all put our music on and just close our eyes and kind of trying to take ourselves back. I mean, I don't know if the rest of you have, but I know I have, and it helps because I've had such amazing times. Have you not done it, Pete?
Do you know what? You just made me think of something, Yasmin. And my kind of early days of discovering raves were sort of 1989, sort of illegal raves in the UK. I'd have been devastated if this had happened at that point. So I can only empathize if I visualize something like that, because it would have been like, you know, your whole connection in life is your friends, and you can't see them. And that everything to you at that moment in your life, you know, and it went on till my mid-30s, late 30s. So yeah, I can imagine that would be really difficult to have lost that, I think. You know, my daily life is the same. I live in Dartmoor. It's like, you know, twice the size of Ibiza and just mountains and rivers and, you know, forests. So, you know, my daily existence is exactly the same, but you know, I appreciate that that's very rare, you know, so it must be very, very hard, you know.
Mm. And you, Harriet, have got a lot of kind of acoustic artists as well. What's the vibe been like for them? Because there's a real richness when you go and watch an acoustic artist and you're in like a So Far Sounds or like listening to what you guys did. And I love that different vibe from being in a party. I love that intimacy. Has that been maintained? Obviously, because socially distanced, I guess you could kind of do that kind of event socially distanced. Obviously not now with the super tier 4, but was there much of that was carried on, and is that different now?
So we had 2 regular shows before lockdown. One was at the Hospital Club that was quite a big setup that allowed us to do kind of bigger and louder bands, but still with an intimate audience, so like 200 to 300 people. And the other show that we did was at Soho Farmhouse, which was in their like barn space that was a lot more kind of acoustic vibes. So we've done in the gap between lockdowns, we managed to do one show at Soho Farmhouse, but like Yasmin said, it was just this really kind of dry, vibeless, no offense Soho Farmhouse if you're listening, but it just kind of like, I mean, it was kind of dry anyway because of the clientele, but it was just sort of 10 tables of people in hunter wellies looking kind of bored. So we didn't rush back to do another lockdown show there. But unfortunately, the Hospital Club, which was where we've kind of grown our live show, is never opening again. So they've closed now for good. Right. So as soon as things happen again, we'll be looking for a new venue. But in terms of acoustic stuff, I think the problem was when it first happened is that every single artist was just standing in front of Instagram, just playing their music, like looking kind of like a deer in the headlights, just sort of not really knowing what to do, just kind of like looking for fans. And then things got a little bit more creative and people started to do fun stuff and the novelty was there. But now, like, all of that's worn off as well. I think people are slowly starting to just like stop and wait. I think a lot of people have gone back to like their lives, you know, their lives behind their careers and just like doing the good stuff, like, I don't know if it's meditating or baking and just kind of waiting for things to come back to normal and trying not to feel that pressure of having to always be on. And maybe once this is all over, like a little bit of that will carry into the workspace, which I think will really be a good thing.
It's good that you kind of gone there because I wanted to take it there anyway, in the sense of tomorrow I've got a show of like sound and silence and the importance of silence, and it's going to come from all angles. But I was talking to Mark, actually. I mentioned to Mark from Pioneer DJ, who are our proud sponsors, and I was saying, you know, that the way I'm terming this time is that we've all been in the noise, we've been in the rave, we've been in that party lifestyle. We're now in the silence. What comes out of the silence is always epic. Life comes out of the silence. Something great can come out of that stillness. But not many people have been able to sit in the stillness before because they've never really done that. That it's quite scary to sit here with all your emotions coming up, with all of your feelings, not really knowing who you are and what you're about. And you question so many parts of your life when you start to learn to meditate or you start to learn to do things differently. And it can be really challenging. And I've remembered so many times when I woke up, when I woke up and I realized that I could meditate and there was this other little voice and I needed to look after my mental health and I needed to be more healthy. I was doing that in a world that was relatively normal, I'll say. It's still crazy, but still relatively normal. I don't know what that would be like now, opening up, my life and questioning everything when the world's also questioning itself at large. So it is quite daunting. And it's something that I think if it's a very brave space to go into, is to ask yourself questions like, am I doing the right thing? Do I want to be an artist? Have I got what it takes? You know, is there enough energy within me to sustain this? Do I feel good about being on social media? Or am I doing it for the sake of trying to hold on? What is it I'm holding on to? Where does it go? And these are significant questions that can define the artist in a deeper way, or can make them realize that actually music's just a hobby. It's not a career. So with you both, obviously with Pete and Harriet, you know, you must have had conversations with people who are questioning that whether they should be a musician or not. Has that happened? I'll chuck it to you first, Pete, and then go back to you, Harriet. But how many of those conversations?
No, I actually sadly can't hear it. I've not heard a word Harriet says. It doesn't. I don't get her sound, unfortunately.
Ah, okay.
I'm trying to piece together what I can from your reactions to her. So
right,
I'm afraid, sorry, Harriet, if you can hear me, but I actually can't hear anything. Yeah, you know, I mean, actually, it's interesting. One of my artists, who's an established artist, I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, who I've known a long time, and we were saying, I mean, I said, you know, if I was new now, I would not want to do this career. I mean, not my career I have now, yes. I wouldn't want to be a DJ now because it's more about marketing, and I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. It just wasn't my love. I'm not personally interested in marketing. I liked music, and I was obsessed with music. I wasn't obsessed with anything else. And you've got to be an expert in so many other fields, and I don't think it would actually interest me. And it's what we've almost been left with is everything but the bit I would have loved, which would have been performing it. And, you know, of course, nothing takes away the joy of listening to it. But, you know, so I would have been lumbered with all the bits I didn't like. So I don't know how I would have felt. But yeah, I mean, you know, I won't necessarily mention names, but I've got an artist who's an incredibly talented artist who has been learning a new skill for a new career, because he might not. We don't know. He's being realistic. He doesn't know what it's going to be, and he doesn't want to be left with nothing in another year's time. You know, so he's adapted and been proactive, which I actually, you know, I mean, I found. I didn't really like the message the government put out whenever it was. I mean, I understood why they did about, you know, retrain if you're in the media entertainment business, which seemed a bit harsh at the time. But it is also a reality at the moment. You need to do something for your own good. You know, you've got to find something to fill your time that's adding value to your life and, you know, potentially other people's. And I think you've got to search that out. I think, you know, it might be 2023 till things are really back to normal, if they ever are. So, you know, I don't think you can wait. I think you've got to be proactive for your own sanity, you know. So, yeah, you know, I think one thing I looked at is that when in the beginning, say last March, when everybody was sort of quite scared, and I'm not saying some people surely are now as well. I appreciate that as well. But everybody was terrified at the beginning, and I think what you have to look at is you've got to focus on the things you control, not the things you don't, because you could be forever frustrated with that. You do control your time. You decide when you wake up. You decide what you do with your day. I mean, I have a incredibly disciplined daily ritual every day, but I would, and that might, if I explained what it was, it would sound like a hell of an effort, but actually it's amazing. And I think I've seen, again, I'm very lucky. I don't drink. I don't, you know, I'm very healthy. I'm 47 though, you know, I've been through the whole process of all of it. So for me, I feel very lucky. I feel I haven't really been affected mentally, personally, because I've got this rigid routine. I'm up at 5, I meditate every day for years, you know, so that helps. I plan my day, then I'm out hiking around Dartmoor twice a day. You know, I make time for other things. I make time for my wife, her daughter. Like I make sure my life has the things in it that it needs to feel sane, to feel good, to feel healthy. State of mind. I think that's essential. You know, the first one I appreciate, you know, everyone was like, hey, we can just watch telly all day. But I think we don't know how many times this is going to happen. That isn't the solution. You know, I think people have got to do things that are going to really help them get through it, not make it harder. You know, it's hard enough without making it harder. Right. It's easy to say when you're older because you've been there, got the T-shirt, come out the other side. So I appreciate if I was 18 and someone was telling me this, it would mean nothing to the 18-year-old me anyway. I'm sure 18-year-olds are far wiser now than I ever was. You know, I think people have got to think about doing things that are going to have a positive effect on them and the people around them, you know?
Yeah, true, totally. What about you, Harriet? I know, Pete, you can't hear Harriet, but the rest of us can. So what about you, Harriet, and your kind of gang that you've got there?
Yeah, so a couple of things I was thinking about when Pete was chatting then. One thing that my dad said to me when I went to art school, so I went to the prestigious, waste of money St Martin's, and spent way too much money on doing far too little. But I remember one thing my dad said to me, and that was, you're not born with a God-given right to make money in the area that you decide you want to. And obviously that's a good bit of advice for someone studying fine art, because the chances of me making any money of that were very slim. But I think that is also true within music. And this is something that I say to the artists all the time, is that you don't, just because you have this talent, you don't immediately have the right to be able to make money in this way. And what every artist has to do, whether it's going and playing on every stage in the UK like Ed Sheeran did, whether it's going on every YouTube channel on the internet like someone else did, you have to find fans to buy your music. And if you can't find fans to buy your music in some way, then you're not going to make money as an artist. And that, I think, is sometimes like a bit of a home truth, but I think once you can get your head around that, it's much easier as an artist to work out how you're going to find those fans. And like Pete said, he didn't want to be a marketeer, he just wanted to like gig. That is, that's a vital way to build an audience. But the problem right now is that there isn't any of that. So for artists that really, really don't want to be on the internet and don't want to build fans that way, then they're the ones that right now are going to have to probably do something else. Yeah. But, luckily there are hundreds of other jobs that you can do with music that isn't being on the front line, being an artist. So I'm seeing a lot of artists that are retreating back from the spotlight and doing more writing, or there's a few that have got really lucky with sync, because the rise of Netflix and platforms like that has meant that there's a lot of opportunities for artists to put their songs to TV or to online content. So there's at least two that I can think of that have lived the whole lockdown of one sync deal that happened last year. Wow. So yeah, I think it's about kind of being resourceful and being clever, and ultimately an element of being lucky as well, I think.
Yeah, because it doesn't mean, like, for any artists that are going to be listening to this, I know, as I said before, we're sending this with Point Blank, and we've got with Waterbear as well. It doesn't mean you failed at your desired passion. Obviously, everybody's in the same boat. You are still creative, you're still powerful, you've still got what it takes to be able to do your best. But the environment that we're living has changed dramatically, and it's really wise to be able to adopt other things and other skills. It's having all your eggs in one basket is a very risky place to be in, whether that was financially, whether that's with your hopes and your dreams, whether it's, with something really important to you. Having all your eggs in one basket is very, very dangerous. And there's Udemy, there's FutureLearn, there's loads of other places now that you can go and, trial short courses of different things. So you're not having to say, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this now, and what, I'm going to have to go into something else and then I have to learn for ages. There's so many companies out there now and learning, schools that you can have short courses and find out whether you actually like it. You could do like 4 weeks of something to see if that piques your interest and to see if you actually want to do something in that area. And it's about recreating with what you've got. And it doesn't mean that you failed, but we do know at this time, and I'm going to say it very clearly, a lot of us are feeling ego bruised. We feel like, oh my God, like, what do you mean I can't do this? And you're taking it so personally, but it's really not that time to take it personally. It's a time to actually use this really difficult time to bend and to be flexible and to find another part of you that wants to come out, because everything is as it's meant to be. and that might sound like a very spiritual kind of woo-woo term, but if we fight against reality in any way, we're going to lose, because reality is what it is right now. So if we can master the fact of let's stay calm in reality and let's see what we've been dealt with, we'll come from a better place. We'll be able to create something new. You can grow from there. But to try and bend something that already exists and that is a very, very painful resistance, and it's not going to be working for your mind. And this is when Pete was saying, you know, he's got and I'm going to have it very soon because it's where I grew up in Dartmoor, and we're moving back down there in a few weeks. But it's that having that opportunity to go out for a long walk every single day. I mean, this is phenomenal. Like, to have your exercise, you might not want to exercise yet, but, you know, at some point you're going to need to. It's taking personal responsibility and saying, okay, you know, you might think of something inspirational while you're out for a walk that you could then put into a track, but allowing yourself to have that discipline, going out there for long walks, going out there for runs, or whatever it is, however you get that outside, that nature kind of thing into yourself, that can help you grow in ways that we've never really experienced before, because we've put our health to the other side. A lot of us have, anyway, not everyone, but a lot of us have gone, health comes kind of like third or fourth on the list. Mental health now is number one. Physical health is number two, and they both go hand in hand. And they, you know, if you go out for a long walk, mentally it's working for you, physically it's working for you. So it's about, you know, really trying to find different ways, but you don't have to go completely off path. You could be the most inspirational person after 10 walks, but if you've never done 10 walks every single morning consistently for 10 days straight, you don't know who that person is. So I would say give that a try and try and develop into a different version of you, but one where you feel like, I can do this, and it's step by step. It's not going to all be done at the same time, but just give yourself that little bit of discipline, and it definitely works for you. So I wanted to ask Yasmin as well, being, you know, on the call as the kind of the consumer, having a different life now without kind of social media, have you adopted any disciplines over the last, you know, how long are we in now? We're like almost a year to this. Have you adopted any new disciplines? What's changed for you on a kind of self basis?
Well, so this is actually quite interesting. I got diagnosed with ADHD 6 or 7 months ago, which explains why I have for my whole life struggled with routine and discipline, and being in an ever-changing landscape where the rules and the parameters and the daily sort of things you're allowed to do keeps changing. I've really struggled to maintain anything. You know, I joined a gym in the summer. I was going 5 times a week, then, you know, gyms get closed, and it's like, all right, cool, I've got to do something else. I mean, one thing I will say is, like, even after I gave up drinking 4 years ago, I never got any hobbies. So I've got some hobbies now. I'm really pleased to announce. Announcement that no one was waiting for, but here it is. Yeah, I took up singing lessons, pole dancing lessons, done a writing course. I've got a bunch of online courses coming up, actually. I'm going to do a level 2 counselling skills course. So I think what Harriet and Pete have said is really, really true. You know, like at the beginning, we didn't know how long this was going to go on for. So it's really easy to be like, oh, just, you know, stay in bed. Don't do anything, because if it's only going to be 6 weeks, it's fine. But when it's going to be an indefinite amount of time, you know, it's not really an answer to just stay in bed and watch Netflix forever. I'm not saying that every day you have to do something. Everyone's got to, you know, do the self-care routine that works for them. But I've found that discipline in particular something very, very, very difficult to keep up with, and it has been the source of a lot of shame for me, actually. And I think, had I been on Instagram, I probably would have actually had a mental breakdown seeing people like learning how to bake, or, you know, learning languages, or picking up all these new skills. Because I just, you know, like at the beginning, I didn't know what I wanted to do this time. And I think in the beginning, it was important for people, you know, what am I trying to say? It doesn't really matter what you're doing with this time. You know, if you're learning 5 languages and you signed up to Open University or whatever, great. If you're just chilling because you spent your whole life on the go, great. You know, we all have to figure this out for ourselves. And whilst I do think that, you know, getting a basic amount of exercise and going outside is really, really important, if there's one thing that I've learned through this pandemic, which is something that I've never been able to have, is that I really need to just stay in my lane. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing or achieving, because I'm not them. And like on a sort of self-development journey perspective, this time has been infinitely useful for me. I'm very introspective anyway, and I've had a lot of time to go in and figure stuff out. I've started meditating as well. And that's immeasurable, and I couldn't post about that on the internet, and I couldn't even begin to start explaining it to you now. But you know, the person that's sitting here now is nowhere near the person who was in this position this time last year. So yeah, you know, I've got some hobbies which I'm really proud of, and like picking up some skills, and I'm trying to rebuild my morning routine or whatever. But actually the thing that I'm most proud of is that like I didn't use drugs or alcohol for the last year, and I haven't caused any chaos in my own life. So that went off on a bit of a tangent there, but
no. I can hear myself on another screen. I don't know if somebody's got it on the phone as well at the same time. I can hear a little bit of reverb or background on it, but never mind anyway. But no, all of that made sense, Yasmin, and I just noticed your t-shirt says horny. Sorry.
I've been trying to read that, but I haven't got my glasses on. I was thinking I couldn't quite work. I guessed it might have said that.
Yeah, I love that. It's like that. Is that your new discipline, the horny hoovering? That could be a new.
Yeah, I might have given myself RSI in my left wrist over lockdown.
Don't think you're the only one, babe. Don't think you're the only one. It's hilarious. The honesty about that is, you know, that's what I love about doing Talkwards and just having people openly, even if you go on a tangent and you ramble, it's life. I'm not here, like, even with this, like with myself, thinking, so many people keep saying to me, God, you're going to go live every day. And God, you've got panic and you've got loads of stuff to organize. I'm like, nope. I literally have no plans. I don't have any agendas apart from the name and who I'm having on, and that can change within like 24 hours. And I know I'm going live at 7 a.m. every day. I'm going toe for toe with Boris. I'm able to have a chat all the time. It's what most of us can do. So now I've dropped the professional nat and the kind of, oh, it needs to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Whenever I've got a plan, it goes wrong. God's got a better one. So I'm just getting out of my own way. And I'm showing up at 7 o'clock every day. Some of them will be really funny. Some of them might be a bit dry. Some of them might be whatever. But for me, this is a discipline. And if I can show up as many times as I can and I'm building something, I'm just having a chat. It's easy. We don't have to do something major. It's just choosing that one thing that you might think, right, okay, I'm going to do this, and make that your discipline. It doesn't have to be walks in Dartmoor. I mean, it'd be lovely if we could all do that every morning, which I will soon. It doesn't have to be meditating. But if there's one thing that you think that you're good at, show up and try and do it every day. It's, you know, it's not always easy, but it's an option for you to see where your discipline's at and what level you're at on that. So I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add or any kind of tips that you think people might need to be thinking about in this time. I don't know, Pete or Harriet.
I can't tell if I'm going to talk over Harriet because I can't hear her. So tell me when to speak and I will. I don't want to talk.
The floor is yours, Pete.
Okay. I mean, I deleted social media off my phone about 3 weeks ago. Oh my God. Wow. It's like amazing. I mean, I haven't deleted my account, but what I found is on the first day, I would log on to Facebook and Instagram once a day instead of probably, I don't know what, 50 times a day. Do we just do it every time? You know, we all have short attention spans. We've almost developed them. In fact, I think social media has developed that in us. But I was going on Instagram on my laptop, and there must be something about the scrolling action of your finger that's easy and somehow fast-paced and entertaining. It doesn't feel the same on the laptop. And what I found was after 5 minutes I was bored, and I haven't actually checked it now for a couple of days, and it's just got boring. And there is this, I think Yasmin said, there is an almost it was almost like we're giving up some big addiction, and there was a void, but I realized the void was this beautiful bit of stillness, which again, at my age, that is a wonderful thing. I enjoy those kind of things when I never did, but for me that's been incredible. And I think again, I've never used social media to post my opinion. I've never been interested in sharing my opinion about anything beyond music. I just don't, I've never been that way inclined. But so I'm not somebody who gets involved in like disputes. I've never had one, but I seem to observe that's so common, and it's just not positive for anybody. And everyone's an expert on everything, and unfortunately, it makes everybody feel that they are. Because it's, and I don't think that's necessarily positive. In fact, it looks negative to me. So I think just even not seeing the tiny bit I was seeing is amazing. So for someone who maybe is really involved in it, maybe try even for a day. I mean, that would be a big achievement for most people. It would have been for me. Just try a day without. I mean, I think it's quite a breath of fresh air, and it creates a lot of space, and you can use that space to think about other things. And I think there's a value in that, especially if you're an artist. You know, I think you need time and space to be creative. If you're an artist, you need the phone off. You need to allocate, I think, a block of time to, I'm going to be creative, and it takes a while. It's a bit like meditating. You can't quite get into it at the beginning. You need time. And I think if the distraction of constantly checking a phone or what, I mean, it doesn't help, So I think those again, and you're saying I haven't drunk for about 4 years myself now, and that is a game changer. But again, I wouldn't expect that to make sense to anybody who, if you'd have said that to me when I was 25, I would have just told you to shut up. But it's been an amazing thing for me. And I think that the clarity and again, that aids towards the stillness and the clarity, and again, a good mindset. I think that's just essential right now. So I think looking after yourself is a good thing. And in a way, everyone's kind of forced into a position where they can't go out and necessarily ruin their health as much as they used to. So I think even though it might feel restrictive and frustrating if you're younger, but I reckon that there'll be a huge value to it when you look back, even if it's just a quick pause in that lifestyle to, just reconsider what you might want out of your life. I think that's, I've been very lucky to have a life I've always wanted. I've been always, I have no qualifications. I couldn't have got a job. So I was forced to do what I loved. It was all that was left. But, even I've refined what I wanted to, just because the space was there to think more. I've made quite a lot of changes in my life this year as well. And we're very lucky to have had the time to do that,
Yeah, no, everything that you said was on point. And I've known you from the transition of when you did drink, partying, rape, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So like seeing you now, and obviously, there's such a growth there, and it's natural and it's beautiful to see. So you're going to be not just helping yourself, but also your friends and family will have a different time of connection with you as well, which is great.
I think it's doing what works for you, isn't it? It's like when I was young, that worked for me. And now when I got older, I just stopped doing what didn't work for me because it seemed too difficult. Hangovers hurt when I was plus 25. And it was like, in the end, you're just like, why do I do that? And then it's a revelation when you don't. There was actually no loss. A lot of people think, oh, it must be so boring. I remember in the beginning, I was managing artists. I'd not been doing it long, so I wasn't that confident that if I said I was a manager, I almost felt like I was kind of pretending a bit. And one of my friends who used to be my manager at one point, a lovely guy called Neil, and we were in Amnesia in Ibiza. And he said, who wants a drink? And I said, oh, no, I don't drink anymore. I was like, oh, shit, of course you don't. I was like, no, really. And it kind of went on. And I was like, God, am I going to be like this really boring dad manager that nobody wants to work with? And I had a coach at the time, and he said, it might be the reason your artists are with you, because, it might suit you to be the guy that gets up early and is organized, and you might not be in a club all night hanging out with everybody, but you'll provide something else. And I kind of liked that. And it made sense, and it made me feel very comfortable. Just just be yourself. Whatever works. Everyone's different.
Exactly. Well, thank you for that. And Harriet, for you, is there any kind of tips or things that you've learned personally, or you've picked up from your array of lovely people joining you every week? Is there kind of top tips out there for anybody who's now thinking, oh, I really need to do something because last year was shit?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back a little bit to what Yasmin said, what I was thinking is one of my favorite phrases is you do you, and it applies to like your career, it applies to what your partner wants to have for dinner. It's just like, you do you, whatever suits. Like for me, I've actually started drinking again in lockdown. I had about a year off, and same with social media, like all of that. I didn't do for a year. And then as lockdown came in, like a massive thing for me is connection. And I was like, if I'm going to be in lockdown, not being able to connect IRL with any of these artists, like I'm going to need my socials back so I can be that kind of beacon that connects them all.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the most important thing with social media is to make sure that you're doing it for other people. So when you're posting, you know, all your posts don't start by, and you're not looking for that kind of self-fulfilling, you know, likes and things that are all about you. But if you're putting out information that you think is going to help other people, whether you're building a community of artists or you know, whether you have opinions to share on whatever, if they're there for other people, then hopefully that can only be a good thing. I started TM meditation probably just before lockdown started as well, which has been amazing for me. So, you know, twice a day I'm meditating, which is brilliant. But then 2 hours after that, I might be sat on Instagram connecting with artists. And that's what is most suitable for me at the moment. And yeah, with drinking, I started drinking again just because Bailey's and Christmas.
Yeah, totally. And you know, when you mentioned TM, then just in case anybody doesn't know what that is, it's transcendental meditation. It's a really solid form of meditation. There's so many out there. There's so many different ways. People will tell you listening to music's a meditation, reading's a meditation. Sitting on your bum, quieting your mind and really going in is a really solid form of meditation. And TM is one of the best ones out there. I think if you want to actually learn from something, there's a lot of people teaching. They may be amazing, but the history of TM meditation, I've done it myself. You know, there is a lot in it. I use other practices as well. I also taught myself before I did TM to meditate, but it isn't as scary as it sounds. It is a lot of stillness. It is a lot of uncomfortableness because there's parts of you that's going to be dipped into that you've never even felt and seen before. And there's going to be a lot of releasing because there's a lot of emotions in there that we block up and that we've continuously blocked over time. So if you're willing to do that and to go deeper this year, meditation is going to be one of the ways to do that. And we're also going to have with the Talkwoods, I have a ridiculous lineup over the next we were going to do 35 days now. With the Boris thing, I'm booking up until March, and I've got some incredible sound healers, meditation experts, workshop facilitators, as well as other DJs coming on to talk about their experience. So there's going to be more for you to get, and we will be so I don't know if any of you guys know this that I've already mentioned, but I've done a partnership with Roku, which is a TV platform. So we're going to be on I Am Sound TV. It's going to be on all your smart TVs, and we're kind of launching it globally because I just think this needs to get out there as much as possible. So if you haven't already downloaded our app, go ahead and do so. It's I Am Sound Radio in the App Store or the Play Store, and there's some meditations on there as well. But I just wanted to read out the comments before we go anywhere, guys, just to see. There's a few here. What have we got? The guy that knows the tour manager of Fleetwood Mac, and but he's now making furniture, doing something completely different to he was before, and it is the new normal at the moment as well. They're Cake Seeker. I don't know who Cake Seeker is. I know I keep seeing you on the thing, so introduce yourself, please. A Cake Seeker is a great name. Right, that's me. Any cake? Yeah. There's another one. So not doing any of this lockdown stuff. I'm gonna go everywhere I did before all of this insanity. More businesses here are standing up and defying this madness. Locals are now voting with their dollars. Oh, so you're obviously in the States there. And there's somebody puts, observe a noble silence and just watch everything, including your thoughts. Offer no reaction and do nothing to entertain them. Simply watch and relax, which is the best way to do your meditation. So thank you, all of you, for joining me on air this evening, and for everyone that's watching. It's been really good to have you on talking about this. It's going to go out to Water Bear and also to Point Blank Music College. So if anybody wants to reach out, can you tell us where to find you, Harriet, for secret sessions? And what, obviously, we're going to have a partnership with you doing some stuff online. But if anybody wants to reach out to you for the stuff that you do,
it's at Harriet JW on Instagram, and then at Girls PTS and at Secret Sessions.
Amazing, thank you. And then Yasmin, if anybody would like to connect with you and talk about where they can buy that t-shirt from.
Where do you live?
You can't get hold of it anywhere. This t-shirt is by an artist called Gory Bastard. You can find him on Instagram. just put Gory Bastard in. But I'm unavailable, and
yeah, it's good. It's good. I was unavailable for almost 2 years offline, and it felt amazing. I'm now back on here, but yeah, it's nice to be able to say you're unavailable at all times. And Pete, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me walking across hills in Dartmoor with my phone up. So good luck.
Yeah, and your artist course. Tell about your artist course with Point Blank.
Yeah, yeah. Me and my partner wrote basically after years of being a DJ. I wouldn't have called myself an artist if I'm honest. I was a DJ, and also developing artists for 10 years, managing artists. I was on a plane once and I was writing, why did that person do well? And I sort of wrote a little series of boxes with sort of attributes they may have had. And I started to just go, I'm terrified. I was terrified of flying and picked the right job being a DJ. And and I started to get really curious about what traits made somebody successful. Because obviously there isn't a formula. Otherwise, everybody would do it, right? And it would work. Yeah. But and then I played around with the idea of writing a course with a friend, and we just kind of didn't really pursue it. And then I was on holiday in Bali a few years ago, and it just kind of came out about 12 hours a day. And I wrote down all the things that I'd have observed that had worked. And then I partnered with a friend of mine called Nathan. And yeah, it was bizarre. I was leaving Bali, and I bumped into an old friend of mine in Hong Kong. And he asked me what I was up to, and I told him, and he said, hey, you should talk to Rob at Point Blank, who I might have met 20 years before, but we didn't know each other. And I'd had on my to-do list that I would partner with Point Blank for about a year and a half. And I'd read it every day. And then this happened. And they're great people. And they really helped us finish the course. And we was due to teach in May, and then it started in September because we had to adapt it to being online. So it's a course that we don't teach you to use Instagram or make music, because there are far better people who can do that. What the course is about is almost the creative conceptualization of understanding what it is that makes you unique and giving you the confidence to kind of really own that and feel empowered to be yourself and, you know, just stand out and be bold and not fit in, because pretty much everybody tries to fit in. And yeah, we finished the first one just before Christmas. It was amazing. I'm so happy to see the students so happy. It was awesome. And we start the next one on Wednesday, actually, for another 10 weeks. So that runs all year. The next one you can jump on is April, then July, then September. And there was no upsell. Most courses and things off, but you know, we had so much interest from people generally. So it was just a really wonderful experience, seeing that it was it's really helped people. So yeah, you know, it's a great time to learn that skill while you can't get out touring, and so I think it might be really useful for a lot of people to sort of really get together their ideas and understand who they are. I think is the key, really. So you
can get that on Point Blank, can't you? Point Blank website.
It's on the artist development level 1 is the name of the course. Our company is called Q, which stands for Creative Unique Education, and yeah, it's a pretty new thing, but yeah, it is on the Point Blank website.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for explaining that, so people can have a good look at that. And obviously, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do so, because that would make me really happy. You can like it, share it, and reach out to us at iamsoundacademy.com as well for more. We are on here every single night from 7 p.m. and tomorrow is sound and silence, and then we've got really interesting artists next week on who is from Sierra Leone, who was actually a child soldier. He got kidnapped when he was younger, and he ended up becoming a child soldier, and now he's an amazing artist, and it's an incredible story. So something for the inspiration to watch out for next week. And we've also got a talk on prison life, what you do beyond the bars, which is going to be quite interesting. So I'll let you guys go, and we will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bye for now.
Bye.